What is up, everybody? This is RybackStun. We are here with another vacation video. This is a build guide for Blade. I know a lot of people have been talking shit about him. I think he's awesome. There might be some issues that I am not completely evident to, but I enjoy him very much, so let's leave that at that. The blade that I use is basically a hybrid build. A lot of the damage comes from melee, but I do have plenty of ranged powers to be able to take out my enemies. Use Wolverine as a team-up, but you can use any of the appropriate team-ups that you think you want to use. In terms of powers, it's very easy. I'm using Whiplash as my main bleed applicator. 20 points on enemies necessary, which is my main single-target damage dealer. We have Stake Thrower, which is a range cooldown, which is an execute. It works incredibly well because it pierces enemies and it deals additional damage against bleeding enemies. I have My Namesake, which is a signature that does a ton of damage. This thing does a ton of damage. And it's just basically a single line piercing attack, bada 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 bada, damage, death, destruction. Next we have Hypertoxin Grenade. This does a ton of damage on its own, and then in addition to that, it also... Okay, apparently it no longer drops a vulnerability on enemies for bleed. That's something that changed, or is not on my power for some reason. I'm not sure why. But great revelations to have happen in a build guide. In terms of Daywalker, or full ranks in the serum, it gives you health, defense rating, dodge, regeneration when you die. You have Constitution. Its activated effect regenerates 15% of your maximum health, 30 if you are starving. It restores 20% of your spirit, removes your full thirst. You get 20% extra damage, 20% attack and movement speed for 8 seconds, and an additional 5 seconds if activated while starving. And then the actual spec that I use is only when necessary, which basically within 6 seconds of starving, it instantly resets all my cooldowns that are non-signature or ultimate powers, restores 30% of the maximum spirit, and the serum gains an additional 5 seconds of effect. 1 rank in Deadly Dash, more ranks in the Ride just because it's there. Full ranks in Long Lived, which is your passive and CC breaker. Damage rating, crit hit rating, brutal strike rating, and health when you hit with a power doubled for melee powers. And last but not least, we have Party Crasher here, which gives vulnerability to enemy powers. It does physical damage, it terrifies, and it leaps into enemies with effect. In terms of Omegas, normally the same stuff. Apparently I have not spent all my Omegas, but we can probably do that right here. Max and Spin Tech. We've got 5 out of 5 in Super Soldier Serum for 5 strength, 3 out of 10 in Reaver Program for an additional 3% bonus physical damage. I've got 10 out of 20 in Shadow King's Possession for crit and brutal. I have Tactical Neural Implant, which gives crit damage and melee crit hit rating, as well as 10 out of 10 in Combat Rorschach Training. I'm just going to pump as many points into this as possible, which will give me 120 physical damage, or physical damage rating towards physical attack, which is 4%. 3%, excuse me, which is still pretty good. 2 points into Shield Uniform for the rest of the stuff. 18 points into Advanced Mandroid Armor for base damage to melee powers and defense rating. 16 points into Focused Plasma Cannon for the physical damage when you hit with a range power. Since I have plenty of range powers, that's perfectly fine. We have 7 ranks out of 10 in Warpath for 7 fighting, 4 out of 10 for the physical damage off movement power with Psylocke. I dash around a lot, as you should. And then the when you hit with a melee power, gain 600 critical damage rating from Frenzy. And that is all the Omegas. In terms of synergies, we use Ant-Man for, basically for strength. The bonus credit per drop is a bonus. Blade for health and attack speed. Cable for crit damage. Colossus for health and physical damage. We use Moon Knight for physical crit power damage, She-Hulk for physical damage and health regeneration, Thor for physical damage and energy damage, which energy damage doesn't help as much, War Machine for spirit and fighting, Winter Soldier for ranged and melee, Wolverine for brutal strike chance and brutal strike damage. In terms of items, everything's blessed with Healas, Hulkbuster Psychic Package for the melee range procs as well as health and attack speed, Nano issued armor issued Nano Poison for regen, fighting, and brutal strike and brutal damage. We've got Advanced Crimson Crystal of Sidorak for health, physical damage, and invulnerability. Blessed Armazola ESP box for the extra damage rating, critical hit rating, and spirit when you hit with the damage over time effect, which you have 1. Madam Hydra Medallion, which is probably one of the best things he can use because it does give you flat defense as well as a chance to proc invulnerability. No relics, but you can go with Atlantis for crit damage, Asgard for melee damage, and probably Lemuria for the regen, the life on hit. I use Lady of the Sword because I don't use power dupe. I generally try not to use power dupe on characters that only have 1 damage rating, but this gives me defense rating based on the actual Uru itself. Physical damage regenerate when you hit an enemy. Damage to melee powers, defense, and spirit. I'm using a level 70 axe. This will be a level 80 axe eventually. I've got a physical bloodstone demon band, which has strength, fighting, and durability on it. None of the other stats matter. I use his range slot 1 because it gives me ranks to stake thrower as well as my namesake. The original coat, which gives ranks to all powers, Daywalker, Serum, and Long Lived. We have Sash of the Ronin, which gives me ranks to all powers, Vampire Hunter, and Tools of the Trade. It also has a challenge bonus of 1 intelligence on it. Boots of the Spider Hero, which gives all power, Toxin Gauntlets, and Hypertoxin Grenade. Wow, that was a crazy noise. Eric Brooks Custom Glaive. This specifically is used for the all powers and Party Crasher. Eventually, if they ever fix Unleash Glaive, I may end up using that as well. Not Unleash Glaive, excuse me, Glaive Orbit, because it deals all of its damage at the end of the animation instead of during the animation, which sucks. I've got crit damage on Blade's costume, as well as regen, invulnerability, and health regeneration per second. I've got a Cosmic Shang-Chi insignia for when I hit with a physical power. I gain fighting, attack speed, physical powers, and movement speed, as well as crit damage and crit hit. Start Deck Mini Sentinel, the green and the blue could use some work, but 2% base damage to melee powers, 2 ranks to melee powers, and 2 to fighting. So this build, again, is very easy to utilize. We'll just use Taskmaster Institute to be able to figure out. You can dash through to get to where you need to be, but one of my favorite things to do is just whiplash through enemies. They die as if they don't even exist, and if you beat them by the time you get to the next section, if you don't beat them by the time you get to the next section, they'll just die from the bleed anyway. So if there's no enemies in the immediate area, just dash through. Make sure that you activate your serum so that way you don't die as you go through to beat the enemies. That's one of the downsides of being able to do that, is you do gain thirst when you go through. So in combat itself, you start out with Party Crasher. I originally started out with Hypertoxin Grenade, but since that no longer has the affix on it, start with Party Crasher, activate your Stake Thrower, make sure you get your bleed on as much as possible, serum when possible, and then activate your cooldown powers again, and then finish off with My Namesake. My Namesake, but it's also My Namesake, because it's stake to the heart, which is awesome. No boss drop there, but that's fine. Let's do a curse scenario really quick, or curse terminal, excuse me, since that's what we do anyway. Fun stuff. Very, very simple build for Blade. It relies a lot on making sure that you rotate through your cooldowns, and then continue beating up bad guys, and blowing up vampires with stakes and sabers. So, any means necessary is what you'll use in combat against most enemies as you're fighting through the various minions that you gotta attack and beat. No vampires yet, but you can beat Dark Elves, which are basically the same thing. I know a Blade fan is gonna yell at me for that, which is fine. They can yell at me all they want. I think they actually stealth nerfed Hypertoxin Grenade, because Hypertoxin Grenade usually defeated everybody on screen, whether they were elites, champions, or regular minions. And right now it seems like it's not doing anywhere near as much damage as it could do, and it used to brutal a lot more than it does now. That's okay. Still a power well worth using. Make sure you use all of your powers in combat. Use your namesake to be able to do a ton of damage towards an enemy. And just use your powers on cooldown. Make sure you tie your bleed, because you do get extra damage on your stake thrower when that happens. And the reason why I use stake thrower is because it's a lot more reliable than stake to the heart is. And it's ranged. Everybody loves ranged. So there is your curse defeat, and that is Blade. Very, very simple build. It utilized items and stuff that I actually built with Kitty beforehand. But Blade is a fairly easy character to play. A lot of people would say his damage isn't up to snuff. I disagree. He used to be able to pull through a bunch of enemies, and he got better with the defense review, so it's not like it's anything different. The one thing I need to look into is why Hypertoxin Grenade was nerfed to hell, because it's definitely not doing the damage it should. It's not brutaling or critting as often as it used to, and it no longer has the vulnerability for Grievous Wounds attacks. So that's something I'm definitely going to have to look into. But otherwise, it's actually a great build. You could theoretically switch this for something else. Most of the stuff you share abilities with, you could throw Glaive Orbit or Unleash Glaive, or just switch into like Whittle into Kindling for just stuff because it's fun. but I think I'm going to keep it because it's a quick just fire and forget, essentially, for me. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did showcasing it to you. Remember to like and comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitch, Twitter, and Tumblr at RybackStun. Remember, we stream Marvel Heroes Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 12 p.m. PST, and Tuesdays at 3 p.m. PST. So come, hang out, have fun, ask questions. We'll do some group content together. Everything's fun and happy. Thank you very much for watching these videos while I've been on vacation. I will be back for sure on Wednesday, and if you're watching this after Wednesday, just come watch me stream one day. It'll be fun. With that, this is RybackStun, signing out.